You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
The 4x4 Podcast, episode 130.
You're listening to the 4x4 Podcast, the podcast all about four-wheeling, overlanding, off-road racing, and the outdoor lifestyle. We talk about news, tips and tricks, answer your questions, and interview big and little names in the off-roading world. So whether your rig is busted and you're in the shop wrenching on it, or you're on your way to the trail, join us and we'll keep you plugged in on topics to help you get away. Here are your hosts, Dan, Craig, and Rich.
Well, hello everybody. It's been a very long time since last time we chatted. How y'all doing?
It has been. I'm doing great.
Oh, hanging in there.
That's good. That's good. You know, I think the last time we recorded was the Christmas gift guide episode, and that was, here it is, April 15th, almost tax day, when we're recording.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Not everybody's got a chance to recover from the Christmas gift guide, and they can use their tax refunds. We need to do a tax refund gift guide.
That's true. That's a good idea. I don't know that anybody, that's an untapped episode market, I guess. That's funny. I hadn't thought about that. Well, so I guess we should go ahead and admit that since we are so out of practice, this episode may be a little clumsy, but I just want to say thanks to everybody for staying subscribed and sticking with us. We are going to try and get better or get back onto a normal recording schedule. Well, I think we can probably promise that for the next couple weeks, and then it goes into big transition time again for me because I'm going to be moving again. So, but we'll talk about that later. For now, let's check and see what you guys all have been doing. Looking here at the show notes, Craig, I see that you went and checked out the new Jeep Wrangler, the JL. How was that?
Yeah. I went and checked it out the other day. I was interested to see what it was because the big hype about the new Jeep. Everybody was afraid of ended up with a independent front suspension for the Jeep. Luckily, I can say, at least for the next generation, it will be a solid axle. But they did aerodynamic the vehicle. I forget what episode we were talking about the Easter Jeep Safari. We were looking at some of the outside.
Some of the styling. The grill has a little bit.
Cue.
Yeah.
Yeah, the styling cues of the vehicle, and I said, you know what? I think maybe they're gonna slope back the grill of the Wrangler, and yes, they did. They sloped it back. They sloped the grill back. They sloped the hood back a little bit. I believe the front fenders and the hood are aluminum. And then I think the doors are aluminum too. I'm not positive on that. But they aerodynamic it. They even moved the license plate to on the bumper because they said that created drag because if you look at a regular Jeep Wrangler, the license plate was right under the rear driver's side tail light. Well, they moved it down under the bumper so it doesn't catch the air going down the side of the vehicle. They shaved the door handles. They raked the windshield back. You can't even tell, really. If you look at it from the side and you put a JK and the new JL next to each other, you can definitely tell that the new Jeep ranked it back. I guess the JK will be out. It'll be done in the next couple of months. They'll stop making it, and it'll just be the LJ.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I've seen the test mules that they've had running around here doing laps between Anchorage and Fairbanks doing their cold weather testing. But now I've actually seen them on – haven't seen any on the lot, but I've seen somebody bought one up here. It's had dealership plates with new tags.
I got a couple of friends that have got them, and they love them.
Yeah. I don't think there's any reason to not love it except for the price.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, $850 a month. It's a little painful.
That's a house payment for a lot of people.
Yeah, now you got to remember that is a fully outfitted Rubicon with all the options with the automatic 8-speed transmission. So you can still get the manual 6-speed, but you can get a 8-speed automatic transmission. The only thing is you don't get that much more of a mileage savings, even with everything they did. It's only like 2 to 3 miles per gallon.
Well, I've had a chance to play around with the JL a little bit. I've sat in them. They're very comfortable. I love the way they're laid out. It still feels like a Jeep on the inside. I mean, you don't really lose anything. It still feels like a Jeep. And the back seat, I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like there's a little bit more room in them. I'm not sure what the exact measurements are, but crawling around back there, it felt a little bit bigger. I like the profile of the soft top, especially from a distance. It almost has kind of a Land Rover look to it, the way they've configured the soft top now. It sits up a little bit higher from the windows.
Okay, so yeah, I think everything about the new Jeep JL is something to like. I don't think anybody's going to be offended by the new Jeep. So I have not yet sat in it myself, but I am looking forward to doing that sometime here in the near future. I don't know if I'll get any off-roading time, but eventually, I suppose.
But I do hear very interesting something. Two of my cohorts here have gotten new vehicles, and surprisingly, I have converted them over to the Dodge side, apparently. So, Dan, what's in your garage now?
Well, actually, in my garage is nothing. But out in the driveway, we finally said farewell to the old Yukon XL. Traded that in for a 2017 Ram 1500 Laramie with all kinds of, bells and whistles. I don't know how much trail time it's going to see, but it's definitely already been up and down the highways, getting to some hunting areas, because had it for 3.5 months, and I'm getting close to 6,000 miles on it already. So the exciting part about it really is that it's the EcoDiesel, the 3-liter EcoDiesel. And I've been very impressed with it. Despite some kind of a rough start, there were some electronic gremlins that I think were probably caused by the negative 30 degree and colder temperatures. Nothing really likes working at that temperature. But now I don't. Yeah. But it's running great. So around town, unloaded with lots of stop and go, and my wife idling, waiting for kids and piano lessons and stuff like that, it's still getting more than 18 miles per gallon. Now, when I'm going up and down the mountains, pulling a trailer full of snow machines, then it's getting 18 to 19 miles a gallon. But on the highway with no trailer attached, I've been able to get 27 miles a gallon, which is...
You're doing much better than me.
Now, yours is four-wheel drive, right?
Yeah, four-wheel drive, and that's with four-wheel drive on. So
wow.
It's just now the roads are starting to get clear of the snow and ice, and it's full of water now because the thaw is on. It's a real thing here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been able to take it off of... I've put it into two-wheel drive a couple times, but even then, out in the mornings, the thaw from overnight is refrozen, and the roads are pretty slick in the mornings. But yeah, that's with four-wheel drive engaged. And I still have the cold weather front on. I have not yet opened that up. But
do you have the air suspension?
All right.
I do, yeah. And so I went out and measured it.
How's that working in the cold?
So I'm told that it uses a closed system with nitrogen. So I haven't actually delved into that too much myself, but the nitrogen, doesn't have the same moisture content that a regular air compressor would. And since it's a closed system, it's just moving air from the airbags back to a tank and back and forth. So you're not going to have the same issues. Now, the dealership, or at least the guy at the service counter, every time I went in to talk about the throttle control issues that I was having, he'd always give me this sob story like, oh, that's going to be the worst thing ever up here. And, hey, service guy, shut up and do what I'm telling you to work on. Like, I didn't ask for your opinion. I've had no issues with the suspension, but from entry level, like entry height, up to the off-road 2 mode, so it's got entry, normal, off-road 1, and then off-road 2. It shakes out to about 4.5 inches of lift with the push of a button, or at least multiple pushes of a button.
Nice. Yeah. How much total?
I saw 4.5.
Okay.
So.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's nice, and it's got the bench seat up front, so we can fit 6 people up there. That was kind of one of the deciding criteria. And when I bought it, the window sticker said it was the 5'7" bed, and that was, we're kind of limited on options on what's available here on the lot in Alaska. So that was a compromise. I wasn't super happy about the 5'7" bed, but I ordered a tonneau cover, and when I went to install it, it was way too short. And I was like, wait a second. So I got to tape measure out. Sure enough, I got the 6'4" bed just like I wanted.
Nice.
So everything else, my wife, Stephanie, she picked it out because it's really her daily driver. So that was the one compromise that I thought I was making, but turns out I got what I wanted.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah. But even before I'd had it 7 days, there was a dead caribou laying in the back. So it is definitely getting used like a truck.
Awesome. Yeah, my truck is not getting anywhere close to what you're getting in gas mileage.
Yeah.
And it is also having throttle control issues too, but I think it's not really related to the actual throttle. I think it's more self-control than throttle control.
Wait,
Yes.
now, Rich,
Yes,
you haven't said what you got yet.
I traded the Tacoma in. I got rid of the Tacoma. The back seat was just not working with 2 teenagers. Their legs were just digging into my back. So I traded the Tacoma in. I got a Ram Rebel with the 5.7 Hemi in it, and it's freaking awesome.
Oh, yeah. No, I test drove that Hemi, and I really enjoyed it. But I know that I'm going to be putting a lot of miles on this truck, and I wanted to get something with fuel economy. So that's kind of what steered me back towards the diesel.
That's nice. I'm getting about 18 highway, so you're definitely doing better gas mileage wise.
Yeah, and that's not even
really
trying.
Getting into it. Yeah,
you got to remember that can
either, so.
That can be regulated by your right foot.
Yeah. Well,
like I said, I have self-control issues.
if you asked my kids, they would also tell you that I've got some spirited driving habits. So it's not like I'm babying it.
Yeah.
But if just driving around with 35 miles an hour, where a lot of places in town the speed limit is, it's easy. I'll see the little fuel economy gauge run up to between 30 and 40 and just hang out there.
Yeah. Mine flashed once.
So, yes, we are still the 4x4 podcast. We have not changed into an all Dodge podcast, okay? We just want to let everybody know that.
Well, don't
We're not
forget,
going to be just all about Dodge, we swear.
Yeah.
We
Well,
promise.
so admittedly, it's not like I've turned to the dark side. I've got Dodge in my past. I grew up driving a '68 Dodge D100. I've driven a Power Wagon, the old school, like the Ram Charger type SUV version. So.
Yeah, this is my second Dodge truck. I've had, 2 or 3 Chryslers and 2 Jeeps, and so still all part of the Dodge Chrysler Jeep family, and a Fiat.
Yep.
So I've had a Fiat too. So
An actual Fiat.
yes.
Wow. Man.
All right.
I don't know that I'd admit that in public, but we'll just keep going on here.
It's actually my first car, and I loved it. It was awesome.
Your first car. It's because you didn't know any better.
When it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Well, since we're on the Mopar kind of kicked, we might as well start off with our story about the Jeep Wrangler, the new LJ.
It's finally
LJ.
here.
JL, sorry. Yeah.
You're determined to make that into a long bed.
Yeah, I am, I guess.
Well, so is Jeep, but we'll talk about that on
Scrambler.
a different episode.
Yeah, I want the Scrambler.
So what we're talking about on this one is specifically on the engine options. Because right now, to my knowledge, the only engine that is currently available that you can go down and buy is the Pentastar. Does that sound pretty correct?
Yes,
That's
it's exactly right. You can only get the 3.6 liter V6.
Yep.
But they are going to, right after the JK they stop making the JK, they're going to start making a 4-cylinder turbocharged gas engine for the Wrangler.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to get some decent, 10 more horsepower than the V6.
Yeah.
That's kind of a shock. Why would you do that?
And I believe Mr. Manley said that we should be getting a diesel version in 2020.
Yeah, yep. And I suspect that it will be the same motor that's in my Ram, that VM Motori, the 3 liter. It may be a detuned. I know that generally the same motor is in the Grand Cherokees, but it is somehow smaller. It has a less oil capacity. I just did an oil change in this one, and I don't know why, but 10.5 quarts. That's the capacity. But the same engine in the Grand Cherokee is an 8-quart motor. So it may just be a deeper oil pan or something.
Well, they're also going to offer for the Wrangler a plug-in hybrid version in 2020. Possibly. That's that's the throw out there. It's a possibility. It'll be a small turbo engine, most likely a 4-cylinder, but then you'll have the option of a plug-in hybrid. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, you probably wouldn't get it in the Rubicon. You know, the other trim packages, the Sport or the Sierra, I could see it in that. I mean, because you're not going to really, anybody that buys one of those, they're not going to take it real off-roading. So getting the best gas mileage around town just might.
You got to remember where the bulk of Wranglers spend their life.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, the bulk of the Wranglers, as well with all 4-wheel drives, spend their life on paved roads. So.
Yeah. That's a good option for that. And, you know, there are some people that just want to have a convertible so that fits the bill. But speaking of, Jeeps that spend their time on the pavement, this is actually a pretty good transition. The new 2019 Jeep Cherokee has been at least introduced, and we've got an article here on the Auto Blog that actually compares the new Jeep Cherokee, the 2019, against what else is in its class. And like I said, this is not the off-roader, this is the soft-roader, just for very mild stuff. And it's comparing it against the Chevy Equinox, the Ford Escape, GMC Terrain, Kia Sportage, and the Subaru Forester. And really, I figured the Forester XT is probably the closest competition, but based on the numbers, that is not the case. It actually does really well.
Yeah, the Jeep seems to be blowing everybody away. I noticed that in this article, they don't put the miles per gallon or the fuel economy numbers. And I looked them up, and they were 2331. So they kind of get these guys by a couple of miles a gallon also. So overall, numbers-wise, it's a much better vehicle than all of the other ones. I personally put these 6 vehicles in a class of snow cars, what I call snow cars.
Yeah.
It's what you would use every day, and if you lived in snow, you didn't really do four-wheeling, but you lived where you needed a four-wheel drive because it snowed a lot.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, as far as Subarus go, it's unfortunate they compared it to the Forester, but that's all they had to compare it to. Subaru's got a new car coming out that would probably actually line up closer with that Cherokee.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
the
a
only thing I don't
brand
like
new
about
model.
the
It's
Subaru,
it's the Subaru Ascent, so that's probably going to line up closer to the Cherokee than the Forester will.
yeah.
Interesting.
The only thing I don't like about the Forester is it's got that CVT transmission. I had a vehicle with that transmission, and I hated it.
Oh, I currently have one, and I love it. I've never had any issues with it.
So I had a rental. I was on a work trip one time, and I had a rental, and it was hilariously bad driving with that CVT. Like, you step on it, and the tachometer, it actually has a tachometer, weirdest thing, revs up to like 3,500 RPMs, and then just sits there. Whang! And just, you accelerate and everything, but it just, my brain did not understand what my ears were telling it.
Why won't it shift? Why won't it shift?
Yeah, our current Subaru has it, and we don't have any issues with it. It's been pretty reliable.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're looking for a toaster oven with wheels, it probably works great. But most people want a vehicle that's got a little more soul than a kitchen appliance. That's just me.
WRX.
Yeah,
What
there
were
you
you
go.
saying?
Yeah, not a CVT.
True.
So one of the other things I noticed with the Jeep Cherokee, as I'm scrolling down this Autoblog article, is that the headlights, what made the Jeep Cherokee so polarizing was its real ugly face. And they have since redesigned that headlight, and it very closely resembles the Grand Cherokee Compass new shape. So they're really starting to bring out that same design cue across all of the Jeeps that aren't a Wrangler. Because really that's what it's going to shake out to be. It's you either want a Wrangler for off-roading or you want a Jeep Grand Cherokee that fits your budget. And they always kind of shake out that way.
It looks like an eagle eye, that new headlight. That new headlight kind of looks like eagles.
Yeah,
Eagle's eyes.
Trying to resemble that trail chicken.
Ouch.
I mean, trail hawk. Anyways, I like it, and I know there's a couple folks. I know we've got some listeners that like or that have the Jeep Cherokee and they love them. So I really can't, those guys also are not taking them on hardcore off-roading, so they know what's up. Won't fault them for that.
Yeah.
All right, let me get back over to our show notes here. Next up is the Ranger Raptor. So the Ford is now kind of announcing the Raptor version of the Ranger, and it's coming back. So all the midsize trucks are getting more popular, despite 2 of the 3 hosts here having just bought full-size trucks instead of midsize. Maybe they don't listen to the show. I don't know.
Well, I've
seen the new Ranger too, and of course you can't compare it side by side with a Chevy. That they won't let you do that. But just from looking at it, I would say they're very close. I mean, everything in it is very close to the ZR2.
Oh yeah,
or just the Colorado in general. But the one thing I really found interesting about the Ranger Raptor is I can't find any information about whether or not it has a locker or not, or if it will be offered with one. I've never found a single article that has mentioned that. So that leads me to believe the answer is no. But,
yeah, no, I would agree. It's probably a no. It's probably got a limited slip. Ford's had pretty good limited slips for a very long time. But this, despite everybody saying, oh, it's the new Ranger, it's really not new. It's just new to the United States.
Right.
So, I mean, this is almost a carbon copy of the global Ranger that's been on sale, in Southeast Asia and Australia for years.
Yeah. And it's funny to listen to the Australian guys talking about it. So it's going to have a 2-liter twin turbo diesel inline 4. They were really, really hoping for a V8.
Yeah.
I guess they had a ton of rumors down there that it was going to be offered with a V8, which is not going to be the case.
Oh yeah. No, I never would have guessed that would have been the case. As much as you want that to be the case, the answer to most problems with vehicles is V8.
Yeah.
But it's not normally the solution.
It would be an awful lot of fun to drive, though. I mean,
That is for
a Ranger
sure.
with a V8 would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, Australia, having, just been there last summer, or I guess, yeah, it was summer. They really have some pretty awesome vehicles, not going to lie. The Land Cruiser, you can still buy those old Land Cruisers, the, I think it's a 76, 79 series, with a big V8 diesel.
Yeah.
That is just, it's amazing. I mean, you got a truck, or an engine made for a full-size truck stuffed into a mid-sized truck body. It's amazing.
It's always great when you have a bigger engine in a smaller car.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Well, the Ford comes with a 10-speed automatic transmission, but I was looking down farther down the article, and it says that it looks like it's going to come with a 2 turbochargers that work together on this little biodiesel 4-cylinder.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's not surprising. That twin turbo, what I'm not sure about is the configuration, but I have seen some 2-stage turbos, like one where it'll spin up at lower RPMs and eliminate that turbo lag, and then the bigger secondary turbo kicks in for what normally would be the turbo. So.
But couldn't they come out with something a little bit more original than the Wrangler Raptor? Okay, They had the Raptor, but couldn't they come out with something a little different? They're not too imaginative at Ford, I guess, lately. To me.
Really, I see it as just a trim package.
Version. Yeah, it's just the Raptor version of the Ranger. I mean, you get the Raptor version of the F-150. It's they're just telling you this is going to be their higher performance version of the Raptor.
Yeah.
Or of the Ranger.
Well, so going back to what this is going to compare against, Rich, I saw earlier in the show notes, you mentioned something about you had driven a ZR2 and you've already got the Taco.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
So, yeah, I did get a chance to test drive a ZR2, and I really did enjoy it. I liked the suspension on it. I didn't get the chance to really spend a whole lot of time off-road with it, which I really wish I could have gotten that opportunity. But just playing around with it, it was an awful nice truck. The interior, in my opinion, was far above the quality of the Tacoma. It just seemed so much nicer sitting in. But had plenty of power. The throttle response was a lot better than the Tacoma was. But yeah, it's a good truck.
Yeah, so I would think that the ZR2 would have to be, just to try and pull some sales away from Tacoma. It's got a pretty enthusiastic audience, and
I gotta tell you, the only thing that's going to steer people towards the Tacoma, if people were to drive the two trucks back to back, there's no doubt in my mind they would probably go towards the ZR2. The main benefit that's going to keep people steering towards the Tacoma is the aftermarket, the reliability, and the resale value. Those are the big three things that are going to keep people coming back to a Tacoma. But if they're just going out for sheer driving and they drive those two back to back, I think they're going to go ZR2 all day long. My biggest question is, how do they handle it? So the great thing about the ZR2 is the suspension, besides the locker and everything, because you don't get a locker on the TRDPro. But the big selling point on the ZR2 is the suspension. So I'm curious how the aftermarket, and I'm sure there's products coming out now, I haven't looked at it, how the aftermarket's going to handle that without you losing that quality suspension. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So is it something about the geometry, or is it just the higher end components?
It's the shocks. It's the types of shocks they're using. So yeah, that's the big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that somebody could get, shocks that perform well and put them on a lower end vehicle and get the same ride quality, possibly.
Well, I'm trying to remember what the shocks are called on the ZR2, and it's escaping me right now. But it came from the Formula F1 world. But
Is that the magnetic ride stuff, or the?
Yeah, but they're supposed to be
Multimatic or something.
Multimatic shocks. That's what they call it. Yeah.
So they're controlled by a computer.
I'm not sure.
No, I don't think it's.
I think they are.
I don't think it's a computer-controlled shock. It's the valving. Man, we'll have to talk about that one on a future show. Maybe. See if we can get somebody more intelligent on that one.
But it is the multimatic shock. That's what they call it. And when you see them, you definitely know them when you look at them because they don't look like your typical shocks. But, if you're going to lift that vehicle, what happens to those shocks? Are they able to adjust to that lift? Do you get rid of them? Do they put spacers in allow for them? I'm not sure how they do it. So
that would be the only way to keep those. Yeah, the only way to keep those shocks would be they would have to build a bracket that raises, when you raise the suspension, raises that bracket up to where the shock is and the stock to leave it to get it.
But when you do that, do they still perform as well as they do stock? So these are all questions we're going to learn. These are all questions we're going to learn as people start modifying their ZR2s, and we'll see in like 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to go down the Google trail because then I'll totally derail the show. But I remember there was something about a dynamic shock valving, so the valves would somehow change to affect the rebound. At depending on speed and how hard it's being pushed, and so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. You're right. So next up, then, since we're talking about the comparison against the TRD, is the 2019 TRDPro is tuning up the package and everything. And really the cool thing now is that you can get the Tacoma with a snorkel already installed. Is that about the extent of the new stuff?
Yeah, but we can't really call it a snorkel.
Right.
Because it's not.
Yeah. And really, I guess that's a misnomer.
Yeah. It's a raised air intake. This thing is not watertight. I would not do any water fording with it at all.
Yeah.
It's not rated for that. It's purely a raised air intake, so it'd be great for the desert. Yep.
But it really is most, what people are calling snorkels is really just a place to suck the air in that's not full of dust already, lower. So maybe you'll be safe with some splashes, but full-on submersion would be a dangerous, dangerous place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless the rest of the motor is waterproofed off, snorkeling is not going to be a good idea, especially with this.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed with that unveiling. First, let me say, I love the Tacoma. I love my Tacoma. There is nothing wrong with that truck, except for trying to fit 2 teenagers in the backseat.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, it was an awesome truck. But I was really disappointed in this unveiling. With that new TRDPro, it's like that was really the only difference I could see was that raised air intake. So I think Toyota they failed to bring it.
Yeah, well, they
have two big competitors coming, and I think they failed to bring it.
Yep, and like you said, what's really going to take people, going back to the Tacoma is the sheer love for Toyota, their proven track record in terms of longevity. And,
And resale.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. For example, I traded mine and got a Raptor, and I didn't lose any money.
Well, the Rebel, not a Raptor.
Or a Rebel. Yeah, I'm not getting a Raptor, a Rebel. I'm still on the Raptor mainframe, the Ranger.
Yeah, yeah. Didn't lose. That's pretty good. I guess resale is pretty good. So, anyways, let's go on here. Let's see. I think we've covered all of the stuff that's in the news. So, before we jump to our interview with Treadwright Tires, I just want to kind of give you guys a reminder that we are a part of the 4x4 Radio Network. If you go over to 4x4radio.com, you'll find the playlist there with all the shows that are on the network. That's the Center Steer podcast, talking Land Rovers, the Jeep Talk Show, talking all things Jeep, and now we've got a new show that we've added. It's On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. Now, they are also a Jeep show, so don't hold that against them. I guess you can tell them you'd rather hear the Ram Truck show over here at the 4x4 podcast. But check them out. They're all really good shows, and that is at 4x4radionetwork.com. All right, now let's go ahead and jump to that interview with Treadwright Tires. Tonight on the podcast, I'm really excited to have Anthony from Treadwright Tires. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, before we start talking about Treadwright Tires, I kind of like to get to know you a little bit and find out what your background is. Just in the little bit that we were chatting before, it's pretty clear you're an avid outdoorsman. So what is your relation to off-roading?
Well, I'm kind of the, I would say your average outdoor fisherman, hiker, do a little bit of pheasant hunting, being from the Midwest. So kind of a all-around outdoor person, if you will.
Okay, that sounds a lot like me, actually. I started off, backpacking was a big thing that I love to do, and then once I got married, kind of turned into it's easier to go, travel to similar places with everything loaded in the truck, and that's really use the vehicle as kind of the launching point for other adventures.
Yeah, that becomes key once you have kids in that. My wife and I used to do 4 or 5 day trips on the Pacific Crest Trail, hiking in, summited South Sister and a little bit of that. And our vehicle wasn't as important, but as I got 2 kids along, I drive a Jeep Wrangler, but you really need that to get in and around because the little ones don't necessarily like to spend 4 or 5 days on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Yeah, it's tough putting a heavy backpack on a kid and marching them through the woods, but they're a little more comfortable sitting in the back seat. Enjoying.
Yeah, you got to drive them in a little bit. They necessarily don't want to do the 3 or 4 day trip around Denali. So, yeah, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, do you have a vehicle of choice that you like to use or a favorite from the past?
Yeah, I guess I'm a Jeep guy. So, and that's just because of easy use, great maintenance, good vehicle for Treadwright Tires. So we make, everything from a 265 7018 that's on there all the way to 3520s depending on what you're outfitting, but mostly just because it's easy to take the top off. As everybody knows, they're easy to manage, they're easy to outfit, customize, that kind of thing. So that's kind of my vehicle of choice.
Right on. Yeah, that is a very popular one, especially here in Alaska. I see probably a quarter of the vehicles are Jeeps of some kind.
Yeah, very, very lightweight, so it also stays on top of some of those deep mud, swampy areas, for the duck hunting types. So they're easy to get around of, easy to stay up on some thick mud terrain. So work pretty well.
Right on. Well, let's go ahead and start to transition here and talk a little bit about Treadwright Tires. I found out about Treadwright Tires, seems like a decade ago. And I think since then there's been a lot of transformations in the Treadwright company. Can you tell me a little bit about the history of Treadwright?
Yeah, we're a 35-year-old company, and it was recently redesigned over the last 3 or 4 years. Treadwright obviously saw the need for an affordable, kind of American-made light truck all-terrain mud tire, just due to the cost of oil, the price of tires, nationally. And what we have done is basically made a remolded tire, which isn't like your traditional retreading where it's glued on and stapled and, looks like a medium truck tire you see down the road. We actually remold them with soft mold cure compound, so the tire is actually manufactured back to a brand new state. And that's why we're able to sell it on Amazon and Walmart.com and those types of places, because it is a brand new mud terrain. Gets the same mileage as a Premier Tier 1, 40 or 50,000 miles on all terrains. Performs like a Tier 1, but is at a price point for the entry level. And it's set up that way, obviously, for reasons that most of you folks out there are a lot like me, too. You know, you want to spend your money in other places than $2,000 on a set of mud terrain tires for your vehicle.
Oh, yeah. And it's really, there's not a much more polarizing topic in the off-roading segment than tires. And nobody wants to go out and buy some tires and realize it's not like trying on shoes where, you know, you can try them in the store. I don't like these, and you just take them back. That's the hard part, is once you buy them and drive them around, you know, you pretty much own them.
Yeah, you know, it's a big investment, and there's a lot of, I will say there's a lot of great tires out there. Not everybody can afford a Goodyear Wrangler, you know, and I actually spent 3 or 4 years in the Goodyear organization. Fantastic company, love their product. But sometimes you just can't do that, and there's so many imports that just don't perform. You know, people with Federal stories getting 15,000 miles and having the casings fall apart and things like that. So we like to pride ourselves on building a tire on a Tier 1 casing. That's your Michelin and Bridgestones. It actually gets that type of performance at a price, you know, as average Americans can afford.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of geek out here on the actual the technical bits on how a tire is made and what makes a retread tire different than a remold. Because I know that's kind of a misunderstanding in a lot of people when they talk about these tires.
Yeah, it's, you know, and, you know, so I don't have to get too crazy with it, but, you know, pre-cure rubber is traditional retreading, and that's where the rubber's hardened. It's already put into a tread. It's what you would imagine on a medium truck tire, and they're glued on, stapled, and then put into chambers, 20 or 30 at a time to cure. And that's where you get the sidewalls are used. You know, a lot of times they're hard to align. That's your typical pre-cure process. You know, and in mold cure, a Tier 1 casing is wrapped, you can imagine silly putty. It's a soft, it's mold cure, meaning it's cured or hardened in the mold. So with a Treadwright mud terrain or a 3520, it's put in a mold cure press, which is the same press used in new tire manufacturing. That's why when you see a Treadwright tire, it comes out, it has all the same bent holes in them, the same small little beads that you see on the outside. And that's all cured and vulcanized inside the mold itself. So the curing process is outstanding, and that's why you get the tire that is basically brand new with a recycled casing. Sidewalls are all branded Treadwright. So much different overall process, look and feel, and the curing process is obviously very different.
That's really cool. So where do you end up getting like the I guess the recycled casings? Where do you end up getting those from?
Well, we get them from all over the country. There's a lot of large corporations you can imagine that have a big business model where they go out to all the large shops. You know, up in the Pacific Northwest, that's Les Schwab, Northwest Tire Factory, and they pick them all up. But there's also a lot of independents out there that keep their used tires or their casings, and then they sell them back to us. So we're getting, you know, 300 tires a day or a truckload every 2 days is what we receive in of Tier 1 casings. For a matter of fact, probably our number one 3520 mud terrain is built on a Toyo platform.
Okay. Well, I know when I've looked at your website there, you've got a lot of different tread patterns, but some of them are fairly recognizable. How do you end up getting those kinds of molds and the same tread patterns?
Well, each mold is built by a size. So like our new Axioms, you know, we pick out some of the more popular OE sizes. So that's a more kind of crossover all-terrain that we have. And we'll make that in 3 or 4 molds, but a lot of times you can use a plate for like our 33-inch series, and the 33-inch tire is molded in 15, 17, 18, and 20, and let's say a claw mud terrain. So the patterns that we use, 2 or 3 are patent pending with Treadwright, and then there's a couple other sort of similar types of tread rip patterns that have been popular over 20 years.
Okay. That's really cool. I know, you know, there's some very recognizable ones that people really know and love. Maybe have gone out of use a little bit, but it's good to see them living on because they're still great treads and they perform well in lots of different scenarios.
Yeah, so there's some similarities to them that are kind of built around those kind of old traditional patterns. There's a guard dog, which people might, it has some similar features as the Goodyear MTR. So there's a lot of people that have been off-roading a long time that are just kind of sold on that. And then we have obviously our big Claw mud terrain, which is our sort of premier brand. That's a patented Treadwright design that has, that sort of 4-lug layout, 2 center, 2 outer ribs with a lot of lug clearing. So there's a lot of space in them. So kind of meant for that traditional deep off-road mud sand type terrain.
Yeah, I really like that one. It's looks like it would perform very well in some deep snow, lots of mud, heavy rocks. Looks like it'd do really well there.
Yeah, a lot of we've got probably a half a dozen snowplow companies, and they'll run any variation of guard dog and claw. So there's a lot of folks up in the Northeast that have plow companies that we supply, and obviously in your neck of the woods, obviously a lot of snow in that direction. Down here in Houston in the swampland, we're a lot of mud and sand close to Galveston on the coastline.
Oh yeah, no, I've done some off-roading down there in Texas, and it definitely requires a different kind of driving style and different kind of tire than people are using up here in Alaska.
Yeah, you can't use any soft winter compounds, which some of our northern customers would like us to make sort of a winter tire, but so many folks are all season, so we've had to do a little bit of a mix of that. But for them, we usually do a kedge grip with it, which makes up for the compound being just a tad stiffer. With our all-season variety, we can't make a compound quite as soft as, let's say, Nokian does with their winter tire layout.
Yeah, I was looking at your website here just a little bit ago, and I noticed you've got the kedge grip as well as the studdable tires. Can you tell me a little bit about the kedge grip?
Yeah, it's it's kind of an interesting process. It was something that the former owners used, and we really kept in play because of how well the siping works. In the old days, folks like my dad and them used to go down in the winter, and they may still do this in parts of Alaska, where they actually slice the tires. They put them on a siping machine, and they actually cut ridges in them. And what it does is it allows the tire to get more grip, and it flexes on ice and snow. So the lug's not, one solid piece. That's what you see on your tires for everybody that looks at them. They have little grooves and lines are called siping. Well, what Treadwright does is we actually add its kind of a walnut shell, very thin glass mixture in there, and it's built throughout the whole tread of the tire. So it's actually inlaid when the soft compound is being extruded on the tire. So then as your tire wears, this flakes off and creates this pitting across the whole lug of every one of the tires. And so what that does is when you get on that ice and you go to stop, it's like this micro siping and gripping on every lug on the ice and snow, and performs really, really well. So that's been popular, and we've been selling that for 20 or 30 years, but we've been trying to explain it and advertise a little bit more just because of its snow and ice characteristics.
Yeah, that's a really cool feature. That's back when I first started looking at Treadwright tires. That's one of the things that really caught my attention as being really useful in this part of the world up here near the Arctic.
Yeah, we actually last year we did much more building out in 2017 for it because we had such a high demand for it in 2016 up north. And it's kind of hard to predict. It's like building winter tires for markets. But we invested in a little bit this year because we had such a good response for our customers in the north central and northeast part of the U.S.
Right on. Well, now, all the tires that have kedge grip, are they also studdable tires?
We don't make all of our tires studdable. We do in a lot of the 285, 265 all-terrain series. And then we do in a couple of our 33, 35 series. For some reason, and this is more common in the lower 48, but they've outlawed studs in so many of the states due to the wear in the roads. More common up in the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin areas. So we do keep a lineup that's still studdable because there's a lot of people that like to still all season their tires, put studs in and take them out. So we try to accommodate that customer base with a popular lineup of sizes.
Right. So I've never actually run studded tires. Usually if it gets that nasty, I'll put some chains on or something like that. But how do the tire studs work? Is that something that the user has to install themselves, or take them to a shop, or how's that work?
Well, most people like myself just take them to a shop, and they'll actually put in the studs there, and then they take them out for you. So it depends. Some people stud their tires and then leave them as winter tires. When the stud tires have to come off, they actually take them off and store them, and they have winter wheels that they use because of they use a lot of salt up north here too to keep the roads clear, especially in the cities. So they'll keep a wheel in that for it, but it's really a customer preference. I'm a lot like you, especially the snow driving that we had in the Northwest, where it kind of snows and then snows and melts just because of the valley temperatures. I just went with chains and an all-season tire. But there were a lot of folks that would still ride studs and had a winter tire set up for their vehicle.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing, especially up here. I know a lot of people do use just winter tires, and you just swap them on and off. But we actually don't use salt up here in Alaska because the salt compound just chemically does not do the same thing at -20. And we spend a large chunk of the winter at below -20, and so you don't get the same effect. You just get the rust. So they just go with straight gravel and sand. It's really interesting how that happens.
Well, and they should, because it's really bad for the vehicles up in that. That's why we call it the Rust Belt for a reason.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you get some different temperatures. I remember stories of guys out there saying they can throw a cup of coffee out the window and it'll freeze before it hits the ground.
Yeah.
It gets really bad. And so, yeah, you're right. Your climate demands a little bit different process for keeping those roads clear.
Yeah, and it's funny, when springtime comes around, they start scraping the roads back down to the pavement. You don't realize you spent most of the winter driving around 6 or 8 inches of solid ice above the pavement.
Yeah, I took my trip out to Alaska. I got to admit, I was a late Julyer. Was trying to make sure we caught some of the better weather. But it's still the most rugged, beautiful place I've ever been, is actually up in that neck of the woods. And I've been through most areas of the U.S.
Yeah, so you guys are located there in Houston, but you mentioned people can buy your tires through Walmart? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, we've the last 2 years, we've really expanded the e-commerce sector that we have, and Amazon.com, Walmart are two of the bigger ones, Jet.com, large retail sites. As well as, our local businesses. We've got tires at the city of Boston, Big Sky Ski Resort up in Montana, which I believe is the largest ski resort in North America. So the tires are all over, but we've really just started to do a little bit more marketing for Treadwright, just to let people know that, hey, there's a American-made tire, that performs at a premium level that can finally compete with these import prices, that are coming in from China or Malaysia or Taiwan, and actually outperform every one of those units. So getting a lot more exposure out there from the retail sector.
Yeah, I had no idea. So just while you were talking there, I looked up on Amazon, and sure enough, there they are. Now the free shipping, that's always a sketchy thing here to Alaska. I don't know if that would actually work out. I'd have to do some research there, but
only in the lower 48 is there free shipping. But we, part of us doing this kind of thing is we're really trying to find distributors up there, so we can work and get a little bit of following, because it kind of comes with retailers in the area or wholesalers saying, hey, is there an opportunity for Treadwright? And then we could send up containers of tires. We still get them up there sometimes, but it is more difficult for us because they have to usually put them in with other things that they're bringing them up. So the tires we've shipped to Alaska are usually because we did free shipping to Seattle, and then this person was bringing something else up, through the through the coastline, and then our tires got put on with those. Yeah. And that's how normally people are doing it, whether it's an ATV or, other small things like that.
Yeah, I think the only people in Alaska that are still surprised by the lack of free shipping, or, you really can't even get prime shipping sometimes, that's people that are new to Alaska. Everybody else, we're used to it, and we just gripe and complain to each other, but it's cool.
Yeah, it's Hawaii and Alaska, 50 states, but they have their own constraints, if you will.
Oh, yeah. But there's free shipping to the lower 48. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so all the pricing there with Amazon, Walmart, our website, it's all done. And for the folks in Houston, they really like it because they come to the warehouse and they get 10 to 15% off because we don't have the freight. And so we don't try to, freight's just a cost, but if we don't have it, it's quite amazing, for Alaskan folks, 3520 mud terrain is a couple $1,000 depending on what you're buying. People are coming down and getting a full set of Treadwrights and paying, $1.67 a tire.
Yeah, that's a lot better deal than what I saw. That's about half of what I've seen here in Alaska. So.
Yeah, we've really got to work on getting containers up that way. Because especially, I imagine, most folks up in Alaska would really support that type of tire, rather than stuff that's just getting imported and, dropped off there in the bay and then mass distributed, that we can give them a tire that outperforms it at a significantly better price point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what about the warranty? Because I know that's one of the other benefits of buying some other brands. What kind of warranty do you guys have?
We've actually got one of the only off-road road hazards available in the country. So we actually sell off-road warranty packages for road hazards. But in addition to that, we have a standard 2-year workmanship warranty that's offered with every tire. So if there's any problem within the first year, we replace. And after that, it's prorated. So we have, if you want to think about it, it's the same type of warranty you'd get if you bought a Goodyear or a Michelin. Most of them are all 1 and 2 year, depending on what happens with the product. So people can be assured if they bought the tire on Amazon or Walmart, if there's a problem, which, is very rare, but if it does, they call into customer service and we take care of it.
That's excellent. That's really just having that warranty there standing behind is one of the easiest ways to sell somebody on the tire. There's been very few tire failures that I've had, but I've got some friends who have had some pretty catastrophic ones, and not having a warranty to back them up was a pretty sad deal for them.
Yeah, they spend a lot of money on them, and, if they've got a year out of them, a lot of times, I tell customer service, I said, yeah, they got half use, but give them a 50% coupon, and that's fine too, where we won't make that much on the next set, but they had trouble. So, we do all kinds of things like that to make sure that we keep these folks in Treadwrights and not driving around on some Chinese import or, less productive tire, and something that's actually backed by an American guarantee.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm really glad to see that you guys are doing all this here in the United States and really kind of maintaining that energy in U.S. manufacturing and providing a quality product with the U.S. manufacturing.
Yeah, it's been exciting, and we got a long way to go, but so far so good, and we're excited to bring it out here to the U.S. market.
Well, as we get ready to close out our time together, I just want to circle back. Do you have any favorite places to go off-roading or fishing, or a honey hole you want to give away?
Well, I've had the luxury of doing some fly fishing in, Bend, Oregon, the Madison River in Montana, some southern Arkansas areas, and I'd have to say the Madison River in Ennis, Montana. I think that town's about 300 folks. It's got some of the best guides in the world, blue ribbon, rainbow and brown trout there. Not just a beautiful big sky experience. So that would be my recommendation. Trout Stalkers is based out of there. So if anybody's looking for a trip, my family and I go every year there to Ennis, and it's just one of the most beautiful places in the world too. So yeah, that would be my spot for you.
Awesome. We'll have to add that to my list. And whenever I do drive out of Alaska, I'll try to stop in through there. I was just out fly fishing last weekend, and I had the unique experience of watching ice form inside the guides on the pole and watching my line freeze in because it was that cold.
Yeah, I tried to hit it a little more in the spring, and then I'd say Bend, various areas of Bend, Oregon down there would be a second spot. A little bit closer to your neck of the woods, but at least 1 and a 2.
Yeah, that's a favorite place for me and my family because we've got some really good friends that live in that area. The Cascadia Vehicle Tents is headquartered there in Bend, and they're good friends of the show as well. So lots of good reasons to go to Bend, and now good fishing is just another one to add on to it.
Yeah. Well, true God's country, as they say.
Oh, absolutely. All right, Anthony. Well, I just want to say thanks for coming on the show today, and I really want to make sure everybody knows right where to find Treadwright Tires. So if somebody wants to learn more, where should they go besides the show notes for this episode?
Well, everything, as you found out, is right there on Treadwright, which is www.treadwright.com. And then if you want to see some unobstructed reviews, as everybody knows, you can't do anything on Amazon. So you're more than welcome to check out some unique stuff there on Treadwright. So take a look, and we'd love to continue to expand in the Alaska area.
Awesome. And that's Treadwright with the WRIGHT.
Yes.
So, and there you've got links to all your other social media outlets, Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. So, and I've noticed in the past you've got some really cool videos on Instagram that really gives an inside peek into the shop and the manufacturing process. And that's something that I kind of nerd out on just because I like watching manufacturing stuff.
Yeah, and it's good for people to see. It's not your pre-cured rubber. These tires, if you check out the pictures on Amazon or Walmart or a website or wherever, you'll see that, unless you got a really keen eye inside the bead, you can't tell that the tires are remanufactured. It's just an amazing process. So, yeah, check it out.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Anthony, for your time, and we'll be talking to you later.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right. So to close out the show, I kind of want to do a little gear review. One of the things that everybody wants on their off-road vehicle, and, I would say you should have one, is a winch. But I know sometimes the budget does not really leave room for the winch, and you're trying to save up money, and there are ways to get around that. And one of the ways that I think is often overlooked is the use of a come-along. And have you guys used these before?
Not in recovery with vehicles, no.
Ah, well.
Yes. We used it one time.
Yeah, so in a pinch, it works okay.
Oh, yeah, in a pinch, when you don't have a winch and that's all you have in the back of your vehicle, it will do it. The only problem is it's going to take 100 times longer if you don't have a winch.
Oh, yeah. Well, and a lot of time when somebody's stuck, they're not super, super stuck. They're just kind of hung up and need a little force to free them from whatever's got them hung up. So what a come-along is, it's a geared system with a manual lever that you input the effort to turn this thing, and it does have a pulley, so you've got the 2-to-1 pulling power that would come from that pulley system, and typically they're pretty short stretches. I think most of them stretch out to about 6 feet, maybe 6 to 8 feet. So you can extend that reach of a come-along using ratchet straps, or not ratchet straps, but a tow strap. I suppose you could use a ratchet strap.
Whoa.
That might not end well.
Podcasts are in no way endorsing the use of ratchet straps for your vehicle recovery.
Yep, that probably wouldn't end well. But a tow strap. But here we've got a link to one on Amazon, and it's a 4-ton dual gear. So it's got that extra pulley there, and
if you stretch it straight out, it will go up to 12 feet 7 inches. If you double it over, where you put it through a snatch block and pull it back, which will double even your pulling power, will only go out to 7 feet 3 inches. So,
which is probably fine.
Yeah, you'll be repositioning a lot, but hey, it's better than spending the night in the middle of nowhere with no food, no water, and nobody knows where you are.
So
I'm trying to remember
anecdotally,
how to configure your high lift to do it.
yeah, well, this would be a lot easier than messing around with a high lift jack.
Yes, it would.
But so I used this one earlier on this winter. I was pulling the snow machine trailer out of the yard or pasture, really, that they've been kept in, and the snow was 18 inches deep. And this is when I was still driving the Yukon, and I got it bogged down pretty good. But I've got a couple tow straps and this come along in the back, and I tied off to a tree and basically did a, let's see, coming off 12 o'clock position to about the 10 o'clock position. So it was a side-loaded pull, and it pulled the front end around and lined me back up with a way to get out, and I was able to drive out. And really the entire process, there was some digging, but I spent more time digging than I did with the ratchet strap or with the come-along, and that made life a little bit easier. All that to say, I didn't have to spend a couple $100 on a winch or wait for somebody to come in recovery in the middle of the night, and everything was just fine.
Or a $400 tow bill, because that's probably what it would have cost to send a tow truck out to pull your butt out.
I was definitely outside of city limits, so that would have been a challenge. But that's something for somebody to think about if they want to have something that can give them a little bit of peace of mind and keep some money in the bank while they save up for a legitimate winch. So I think that's it for this episode 130. You can find links to the show notes at the 4x4podcast.com/130. And we'd love to hear from you guys. It's been a while since we've had any iTunes reviews, so we want to hear what you think. You can go over to the 4x4podcast.com/iTunes, and that'll take you to the iTunes store, or use the podcast app that comes pre-installed on everybody's iPhone. Just saying. You can subscribe there, give us that 5-star review if you think we need it now that we're back into producing shows, and leave us an actual a note on what you think we can do to improve. And you can contact us at the 4x4podcast@yahoo.com. We're on Facebook, the Instagrams, and the Twitters at the 4x4 Podcast. And now I think that's it. So it's time to hit the trails. God bless, tread lightly, and stay safe while exploring your world.